What's going on, everyone? This is Let's Party Prayer and Punk Rock. I am Drew.
And I'm Kat.
Yeah. We thought we'd do this little intro here. We kind of are doing a two-part series on what's called a Man Up retreat, they're calling it, at our church. It's a men's retreat.
Yep.
All Christian men get together on a weekend and celebrate God together. And they had a guest speaker,
Jesse Holly. So we just did our last podcast basically about mainly Jesse Holly.
Yeah,
and
the
his
interview
and prayer and all that. But that there was so much, we didn't want to put it all together and make it like a 2.5 hour podcast. So we did a separate one just to kind of like see what it's like, you know, behind the scenes at an event for all men, which is kind of cool because I was one of the only girls there. And so lots of testosterone.
That is true, yes.
You know, but it was really cool to see them break down barriers and break down walls and, you know, show emotion and show feelings and, you know, huddle up. We talked about that in our last podcast. You saw Jesse talk about, you know, getting together with your brother and huddling up and you know, being there for one another. And so it was very nice to see that. Right. And we have some interviews about their God stories.
Yeah, and we did it more like a two-parter, you know. So yeah, the first one was more the Jesse Holly interview. And shout out to Rich Green, who put this whole event together for us. Or I should say allowed us to set up shop there, you know. We really appreciate that. And so it's sort of like the two-parter where it's more of the interviews that Rich had with Jesse as well as that we had with Jesse. And then, so the second part is more of, what kind of it is entailed as well in the events, you know, games and food and stuff like that.
And it was definitely, it's very inspirational because everybody has a story. And so, you know,
we did our own interviews as well. Exactly. With some of the people there.
So, and we're very interested in your God story too. So if you have a God story that you would love to share and you are interested in being in our podcast,
hit us up.
That's
right.
Let's do this.
We hope you guys enjoy the second part, and we will be back next week. We're going to sort of set a certain time here. Tuesdays.
Yes.
Every Tuesdays we should have a fresh episode for you.
Yep.
If we don't, I'm sure we'll hear about it, but we will have them every Tuesdays.
All right. We love you guys.
You guys take care. Love you guys. Have a great week.
I pray that, Lord, as I kind of roll through things here, that I get out of the way, that I allow you to speak through me anytime that I get the opportunity. I would allow, Father, that you would just speak through everyone that would be up here on this stage, that you would draw all men unto you. That, Father, the challenge is there that men would just let everything go for the next 20 hours and just allow you to minister to their hearts. Bring transformation. Father, now as we break bread around these tables, would the fellowship be sweet in your presence? Would you bless our time, this food, and our conversation? And we give this whole night to you. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Now, I'm here to...
What's the letter? S? Strung out. Slayer. Slaughter. Yeah. Sisters of Mercy.
Twisted Sister.
Ooh, Twisted Sister.
Soundgarden.
Ooh, Soundgarden.
30 seconds for the Chick-fil-A gift cards. God's Chicken.
About like Rod Stewart.
There you go.
How about Steppenwolf?
Oh yeah.
You got Slayer?
Yeah.
6, 5, 4,
Come on, what you got?
2,
You guys got Slayer, Slaughter, Sisters of Mercy?
Look, he's got all of them right over there. Go look at it. We're finna cue this one.
All right.
Who's got 11?
15.
Who's got 12?
Oh, who came up with Blake Shelton?
Wow, that was a good word. Just out of curiosity, it doesn't mean anything. Who's got Super Tramp? One of my favorite. Yeah. Bonus points right there. No. Who's got, what are we at, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16, 17. You were always the bridesmaid, now you're the bride. Let's hear the 17. And don't be going Super Tramp. All right. Tony, hold on. Hold on. Hold on, I'm sorry. Hold on. What's your name, little girl? So, there's a man up here. Did you say Daisy? Oh, Jake. What did you learn in the process? What did God teach you in the process? It's one thing just to get through the trial. My wife, Patty, will be married 41 years next week, and she always told our kids growing up, don't waste the trial. God has something for you. I've told you 2 or 3 times. Jesse's told you this. Robert told you this. Don't waste what God's doing here. So what did you learn in the process? Use what God taught you to carry another's burden, to minister to another man. Maybe your wife, maybe your kids. How did you use what God taught you to make an impact for the kingdom's sake on someone else? What I love the best about the whole thing, I love Jesse, I love his talk, I love our worship, I love all that, but what I really love is when men sit together and contemplate what God has said and what He will do. Okay, what was your, I know you're going to share your testimony tonight, and it's amazing. What was your faith journey as a kid? Don't ruin your talk tonight, but what was that atmosphere like in your home?
There wasn't an atmosphere of faith. We didn't go to church. You know, my grandmother kept a Bible. We believed in God. You know, I still believe that I'm still covered today, and many of us in this room are covered today by grandma prayers. There's a ton of us today that are still living, breathing, and kicking because grandma was praying over you, and those prayers are still covering you today. And so that was pretty much it. You know.
All right. So we're talking to my buddy Jeremiah here. Now it's kind of funny. I run a welding supply business, and you are a customer of mine.
I am a welder.
That's kind of we ran into each other here. Like, hey, wait, I know you.
I know you.
So this is Jeremiah, and do you go to Compass?
I do.
You go to the
North Fort Worth.
North Fort Worth, okay. And that one just opened up
last year.
Last year, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're getting quite a bit of little movement going on in there too. Just one. Do they have one service on Sundays right now?
2.
They have 2 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
9 and 10:30.
What's the address over there? Where's it located?
I don't know. It's off 287, heading towards. I don't know what city that is.
Because it's separate from the Roanoke campus.
Yes.
Right? Because those are fairly close by, I think, too. Yeah. Okay. So what brought you here today? The men's retreat here?
Just the Man Up experience. I got an email about it from some other members of the church.
Okay.
And invited my stepdad to come hang
really?
out. So here we are, just hanging out.
Does he regularly go to church as well, or?
They do, but they're looking for a new church, so I figured I would invite them out. And,
oh, cool. They just moved to the area or something like that?
No, they've been here.
Okay.
They're just, coming out of, the whole COVID thing, and they're thinking about leaving their church, things like that.
Yeah, like how Jesse called it, was it Bedside Baptist? I never heard that one before. That was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
So tell us your God moment. Do you have a God moment where you suddenly just sort of realize, I need to follow God?
I mean, I don't know if it was follow God. There was moments that came up
that led up to
that God moment. But in 2010, I got busted by the feds.
Oh, wow.
For selling drugs.
Okay.
And even in that moment, I wasn't really sure. In the early in that moment, I still wanted to party.
Right.
It wasn't like, all right, now I'm gonna just be good.
Right.
It was like,
I got caught.
So let's see. And so as I went to court, and they started telling me I was like a flight risk and a danger to society and danger to myself. The reality of the situation really started to kick in, and I was denied a bond.
Oh, wow.
But they gave me the opportunity to be conditioned if I went to treatment.
Okay.
Well, I called my dad, who actually happens to work in that field, and he helped me out. Got me into drug treatment. Okay. And then from there, it's like, okay, like, I'm starting to chip away. But before I got out to go to that treatment center, like, I knew that I was at that fork in the road. Right. And when Jesse talked about the fork in the road, you hardly ever hear that saying. No. Usually you talk about, I had a decision. This happened and I made this decision. Like, the fork of the road was so clear. It was like, I'm either going to be in and out of institutions the rest of my life and a drug addict, and I'm going to lose everything and not be around my daughter.
Right.
Or I'm going to try a different way.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that was where it started. I went to rehab. I had to go back to jail for another hearing and wait for that to happen. Oh, wow. And then I finally got that, got to go to a sober house. I didn't even get released to myself. I had to go to a sober living house. I lived there the entire time I was on pretrial bond.
Wow.
I was looking at 9 years in prison. I got 44 months, so just around half.
Okay.
And while I was while waiting to go to prison, that's when I got back into church, got baptized, rededicated my life, started volunteering at that church, and was in recovery actively.
Okay.
And going into prison, there was a calmness.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was nerves, but there was a calmness too. And I'll never forget the moment that I was contemplating the whole 12-step recovery, and then God, and how do I make it all work? And I started thinking, I said, God was like, I'm right here with you. It doesn't matter where you go.
Where you go, I'm right here.
I'm right here with you. And when your mom can't get to you, your dad can't get to you, your friends or your sponsor, I'm right here.
Right.
And that was kind of a moment. I was like, okay, cool. Even if I'm physically alone, I'm not alone. And that's why that's really
you can feel it.
You can feel it.
You can really feel it. I mean,
Yeah.
people don't understand it, but you can.
Yeah. And so there's more moments after that. That just stack up.
Right.
Where God's like, hey, just keep trusting me. It's not going to be fun sometimes.
Because it's always, like we've heard numerous times, it's also God's timing,
Mm-hmm.
and patience really is a virtue. And sometimes we don't understand what we're going through, and we think that, okay, just because we're doing the right thing now I'm supposed to be rewarded. But, God's like, it's like, no, you need to still keep moving in order to see it sometimes.
And sometimes it's going to take you backwards a little bit.
One step forward.
It's not backwards to him, but it's backwards to you.
Right.
I'll give you a quick story. In the halfway house, I was a week to getting out and going home, sentence complete.
Everything done.
And they said that I failed a drug test for opium. Never done opium my entire life. So on my
Did you have a poppy seed muffin? Could have been. I saw that in Seinfeld.
So I tried to appeal it. They wouldn't. I even offered to pay for a hair follow-up test. And they were like, no. They were really we're not gonna. We don't care what you have to say. And so on my release day, they took me back to FCI Fort Worth, and I sat in solitary confinement for 6 months.
No way.
What I got from that though was, I was just going through the motions with God. I was so happy to be home and but I was focused on me.
Right.
Going to school.
Kind of like what Jesse was saying, right?
Yeah. I was focused on rebuilding my life. And I was like, all right, God, I'll go to church on Sundays. You know what I mean? Quit doing the Bible studies in the morning and things like that. When I got that in solitary, I was like, man, that really needs to be first.
Right.
And it's a reminder, even at times, even today, with all that removed, I can do that. I can start getting into my own life and putting that first, and forget that.
Spend that quality time with
the
God.
only reason I'm really, truly here is because God blessed me and put me here.
Yeah, really. That, you're right. Because, he kind of felt that. To me, it sort of sounds like, you're on the right path, but I think you need some time to yourself to really get to know who I am.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was through solitary.
Yeah.
But hey, it all came out in the end. Look where you are now, man.
Oh yeah. In 2010, my ex-wife was trying to take my daughter from me and terminate my rights, and now I had custody of her. So she just graduated now, so she's an adult. But the last several years, I've had custody of her.
Man,
so,
dude, that is awesome.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
It was great to talk to you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll see you at the store.
You'll see me at the store. It's so weird. You get to uncover this little other in your life. I didn't even know that about this dude.
Yeah, I know. And then you come up to me we got a lot to talk about. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, hey, man, you take care, dude. It was great talking to you. All right, man.
All right, so we've got Brian here today. He has quite the story, and it was a similar story to what I heard about in Jesse's story, and so I just want to have him share a little bit about that today.
Yeah, what I started telling you was growing up how angry I was.
Yes.
And I don't even know why. Right? I don't know where the anger came from. Yeah. Early, all the way back into junior high, I remember just being so violently angry, and it was so easy for me just to be
the one emotion
and just go off the handle like the Incredible Hulk and just turn violent, and I could feel it kind of coming, and I would say, you don't want to get me mad, please, you don't, because I knew, but if I'm up against another man, they're like, oh, what are you going to do when you're mad, right? Well, right, it all just goes, right? It just gets blown up, and that was the theme of my life for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And ultimately what that led to is me losing everything. No friends, no family, and no one wanted to be around me. Yeah. And all the way to where I was homeless. I was completely homeless, living out of my car.
Yeah.
So, and I remember the feelings of just unworthiness, just not feeling like
Like you almost deserved to be there?
Yeah, exactly right. Like I deserve to be there. This is where I'm at. Like I can't blame it. But I also remember arguing with God and just being like, whatever. Like if you, like God, if you're so great, like whatever. I know I don't deserve it, but whatever.
So you making it better.
That was like my total attitude, right? Yeah. And then on Saturday, I had my car parked in this one parking area, and on Saturday, this man named Doug came. And he said, "Hey, how about you? I come back tomorrow and take you to church with me." And I was like, "No, that's all right. I'm not interested in that."
Yeah.
And then next week, same exact thing. Hey, man,
he was persistent.
Come and a few weeks, but he kept getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Because when he got it right, he said, "Hey, man, how about I come pick you up, you go to church with me, and then I'll buy you lunch."
Yes.
And I was hungry.
I'll feed you.
And I was hungry, right? So I was like, yeah, okay. And I was kind of nervous, but kind of didn't care because I didn't care about anything, right? And he tells me like he about crapped himself because he had one car, 5 kids, and a wife, and he didn't know how he was going to do it, right? So I remember when they pulled up the next morning, it was like Chinese fire drill where all the kids came out and they all ran around so that I could sit in the front. And so I sat in the front and we went to church, and it was a church a lot like Compass here, a little bit bigger, a Christian church. It was very vibrant, loud music,
nice.
Good preaching, and I wasn't used to that. So
had you been at church as like a young person?
So when I was real little, we went to a Lutheran church. It was a very quiet, liturgical style church, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it was definitely not this style.
So it was something not at all.
It was totally different, right? Traditional hymns and lots like that, right? So so week after week he would just take me, and
he would feed you each time.
And every time we went to Ricky Lee's in Canton, Ohio, Chinese a buffet, right? Go take a hungry person to a Chinese buffet, and it was a good Chinese buffet too, like right.
It's kind of making me hungry right now.
And so his kids would run all over the place, right, and just cause a muck. So it was kind of cool because I didn't feel out of place really, because they were the ones doing the bad stuff, like and I was wolfing down the food.
Right.
So so I fell in love with those kids, and I remember like kind of my conversation in my car with God was changing to like, oh, okay, God, like, I knew my heart, and I'm like, oh, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve a nice family. I don't deserve that love and that joy. Like watching these little kids and how much fun that is, and like yelling at that one because their shoes off and stuff like that. Like that, like I fell in love with that, and so, I really started looking forward to these. And after a few months, Doug came and gave me some gas money, and he said, hey, we're going to be out of town. I can't come and pick you up, but hopefully you'll make your way into church.
Yeah.
And I was just going to take the $20.
Yeah.
Which I did, but I did make it to church. And
so how did you get there? Oh,
I drove. I drove there, and I parked way out in the far end, like I don't know why. When I think back on it, it's like I didn't want anyone to know me. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. I didn't want to be approached. I felt like I wasn't worthy to be there. I didn't deserve it. I'm not going to park up front. I mean, I remember I was way out. Like there was no one around me.
And what was this like this 5th, 6th, 7th time that you've been there?
No. This was probably more like 5 months.
Oh, okay.
So I've been going for a while.
So it was familiar to you. You still felt like you needed to be far out.
Because I walked in, my eyes were down. I didn't say hi to anybody. I didn't know anybody there. I wasn't trying to say hi to anybody. There was times where, Doug and his wife would say hi to people. Hey, whoever, it's my friend Brian. And it left it at that. It never went any further than that. Church starts and then you're off. So I made my way into church, and we started singing, and I just kind of I felt different, right? Like during the music, I felt a little bit different, and I just remember raising my hands up, and God, I heard Him whisper in my ear, say, "I love you," and like that was what I needed to hear.
And it was loud.
I play it back in my mind. I can see it right now. Like I wish I was like a great artist or somebody who could recreate this, right? Because if I could recreate it and show it to you, there was no way. There was no one that could whisper that in my ear, and why would they?
Right.
Okay. But it was what I needed to know because I didn't feel like I was loved by anybody, anything, or worthy of anything at all. Not even worthy to be in the parking lot. Not worthy to be in that building for sure.
Yeah.
Let alone in front of God.
And it was when you were alone that then he took that opportunity.
It was only then when I was listening.
Right.
So I mean, I fell to my I didn't make a choice to fall to my knees. I fell to my knees, and in that church, it was. That was not all that unusual. So for a person to fall on their knees during one of these worship songs and stuff wasn't like, oh, look, like, it was just kind of normal.
It would be in like a Lutheran or a Catholic church. Like, what are you doing?
Well, right, they call an ambulance, right? They wouldn't know. So they're like, oh, something's wrong with that guy. Yeah. So anyways, like just something happened then, and I'm bawling with and it's dark, and I'm bawling, and then the music ends and the preacher and I just left like in this daze, like. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody, and I just had this glassy. I remember that like walking almost like a zombie to my car, and I got in my car and I was like, I can't go anywhere yet, but I don't want to be here in this church in case someone comes up to me, right? So I went to some other parking lot, and I just sat, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize at the time, and I didn't tell anybody for a long time. When Doug came back, I didn't tell him.
Wow,
I didn't know. I didn't know to say. I didn't know to say anything. But what had happened that after a few months, I realized what happened is alcohol was so prominent in my life, and anger was so prominent in my life, and both those went away forever.
That's amazing.
And I didn't try. And it's not like I was convicted over alcohol.
It was taken from you.
It was completely gone. It was wiped away. The Holy Spirit came in, and it washed that from me. Okay. Now, there's other things. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not like I'm like, hey, I'm perfect right now and everything's wonderful. Okay, but
there is no perfect person.
Other things, as we learned today. A few weeks after that, so the following week I did steal a Bible. I stole a Bible from the church, and then you're allowed to steal from the Bible.
You're allowed to have one. You're allowed to take it.
So if you don't have one, you are allowed to take it. And so, but I did. Like I kind of took it, and I had candles in the car, and so I light a candle, and I was just kind of reading and trying to understand stuff, and I don't know what I understood, but like it was just like finally something was like true that I thought that I don't really understand this, but like I know I can trust it.
Yes.
But I don't really understand it.
Right.
And it's not a human being explaining something to me where I don't trust that person, but but anyway, after a couple weeks, a woman who was an old family friend surfaced and had a room above her garage that I could stay in. Yeah. And so that meant I could take a shower instead of going to the Y. And there was a computer in there, and I was able to, they had electricity, no heat, but and this is in Ohio. Yeah. But
Ohio.
Yeah, it was cold.
Cold.
And so I was able to kind of figure out how to find some jobs and use her telephone for some phone interviews. And then had an interview where they finally wanted to see me in person in Dallas.
Yes.
And so I didn't have clothes to wear for that type of a thing. And
but God.
I borrowed money, and got a suit. Borrowed money that they actually eventually told me not to repay, so they actually paid for it. But I thought I was borrowing it and got a suit. I was the first flight out of Cleveland to come to Dallas, and then the last flight in that same night back into Cleveland. So it was that nonstop, that long day. I had to drive an hour to Cleveland and then fly, and then from the time he picked me up and all the interviews and everything, lunch and all this stuff, and flying all the way back, right? So it was like intense.
Like all 24 hours?
Like in that one day, right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So ended up getting that job, right? And it didn't pay a lot, but it was a great.
It was a job.
It was definitely a lot for me.
Yeah.
And it meant moving to Dallas, so that was fairly easy because they didn't have to pay moving expenses. The guy didn't know. I'm like, you don't have to pay moving expenses because all I got to do is drive down with what's in my car. That's all I have.
Yeah.
The Pontiac Grand Prix.
Right.
Okay, that's all I had.
Right.
And it made it. The car made it.
Nice.
But I was the first employee of that new startup company.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I didn't know what the job was even going to be, and it just was whatever, right?
Yeah.
And as time went on, we would hire more people, and everyone just reported to me, and then I ended up being vice president of that company.
Isn't that amazing?
So it was really pretty cool.
What a God story.
Yeah. So, and that's as far as I told you about yesterday, right?
You got extra?
So just a little.
Okay.
Because after about 8 years, that organization, senior member in the organization was doing some not so great things,
Yeah.
and so the board had decided to close the company,
Yeah.
and so I was also the last standing employee
Oh.
who actually was shredding the files, locking the doors,
Oh.
helping all the other employees find good jobs, giving them references, and so I was the last person actually that closed the door in that. Fast forward to getting a degree in ministry and pastoral leadership, to working as a chaplain at a homeless shelter and a chaplain with a missionary group doing work with sex trafficking and human trafficking overseas. So,
And now you also go into prisons, right?
yeah,
Men there.
yeah, absolutely. So I've done a few different prison ministries. Some were on the I guess all of them are on the inside, but the one that I really liked the most was where I was able to preach and tell a lot of details of my story to these guys, because I would come in just clean cut white guy. I'm just kind of like a dork. I'm just like, like I wish I was cooler, but I'm not. But, and so these guys, I mean, that's what they see. Like, oh, who's this, guy coming in here?
Perfect.
But then that's when I had to start saying, it's like the only difference, really, if I tell you these stories, the only difference is that you got caught and I didn't.
I was going to say, yep.
Because you got caught when you were 11 years old doing that, and then you got into the whole cycle.
Yep.
And then for me, I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Not by the police.
Right.
And I did horrible things. And God forgave me way before I forgave myself.
I love that. You said that
Right?
yesterday too.
And so it's just an amazing.
That, and it changed your life so much that you went into like the ministry.
Yeah.
And I love that you heard God's voice, because I've experienced that as well. And Jesse even said he experienced that, and a little bit of homelessness as well, sleeping on a futon. So I love that story. And I love that you now have a 4-year-old.
I got a 4.5-year-old at home. I have an awesome wife. Yeah. And so we're just so blessed that when I go to events like these, okay, this is a men's event,
right.
But other revival style events, okay, that I might get the opportunity to be blessed to go to, like I just think, man, I know what God did for me, and I know what God has done for people that I know.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that you have turned around and gone so far away from God, because He's still reaching out for you,
He is.
right? And so that's my message, right? It's just it doesn't and so we do struggle with things. Things come up that I forgot I did in the past, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe, and I'll start crying. I'm like, and I don't know that person's name or where they're at. I can't apologize to them, but I take it to God. I'm like, God, you somehow, like, here's a level of that onion in my heart that you shed that thing, and here's another thing that I got to just raise to you and just beg forgiveness. I forgot about it, But what can I learn from it now?
Right.
So.
And now you can teach your son and have him, watching you be this wonderful leader for God.
Yeah, for God.
So I love it.
I'm just here to just testify how God awesome is, and how He just continues to work in our lives, whether we know it or not.
Right.
I came to find Jesus on my own, kind of when I was younger in high school, and kind of had a little life trauma go on. Everyone deals with. Everyone kind of has a little story, and kind of went on my own path and went out and played college ball at Arizona State, and had a football scholarship. Was very blessed. And, went out on my own and kind of ran away from the world instead of addressing problems, and the whole time I thought I was kind of running away from God, and
addressing problems. I mean, do you care to enlighten what kind of problems?
Just like social family issues. I had divorce within the family, just just our just within our home, and then
some personal issues.
Just personal issues of that issue. So then me personally getting into college, I didn't have that foundation, and I had access to, I become addicted to drugs. I had access to pharmaceutical. I could come and ask for anything.
Being a player too.
Being
all kinds of different painkillers.
Exactly. So coming back home, becoming a drug addict, coming back home, dealing with depression, anxiety, that whole that whole mess, and continuing to think I'm running away from God, but now standing here, it's just He was really with me there that whole time, protecting me.
Yeah, you
And
thought
now
you were
you
running,
see
but
it.
you were just running right next to you.
Running with me the whole time, man, and just a crazy.
So what was your
realization,
what was your God moment that kind of turned the table, flipped the switch?
I got into some serious trouble. Started riding around the wrong crowds. I always had the urge to help people. Always know I can communicate with someone who is a crackhead, a billionaire, someone who's addicted to meth. Anyone I could find a mutual ground and bring some positivity to their life. My problem was I wasn't walking with God while still trying to minister to people. So I was kind of running with some crazy folks. And we got into some trouble, big trouble. I got in trouble, was facing 25 years to life in prison. And, someone who I was running with that I was trying to, all my friends around me were, this is going to get you in trouble. What are you doing? Someone who I was trying to minister, he murdered someone and got murdered himself and got killed in prison.
Oh, he did? Wow.
So this all coming to light, I've never been in trouble. I come from a great home.
Yeah.
God just blessed me and showed so much mercy and grace.
Did you kind of look at that gentleman kind of like that could have been me?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And everyone I start telling stories to my brother, and I'm like, oh, that guy's dead. Oh, this guy that owes me money, oh, he's dead. So
you got out of it.
I got out of it. It was such a blessing, and just, was able to still be here with my family, and I didn't have to serve a ton of time. I did 30 days in county jail, but I've been on probation for 6 years. It's turned my life around. It's brought me closer to Jesus. And now I'm able to, this is the first time I'm really even talking about it, honestly. Like, no one knows it. But I just want to be able for Him to equip me to help others and to talk other people's, talk to families.
Because we want other people to realize that, all Christians have a different life.
We come from alcoholism and drugs on our end too, and we've been, so like Jesse said, nobody's perfect, and this is how we can relate to people, and you're either in the storm or going through the storm or coming out of the storm.
Right.
So it's good to see that you're also you have the little brother, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so you're kind of like ministering to him too now,
Right. And the crazy thing is, it's all full circles, because he was so close with God and having all these prayers for me during my struggles. So now it's just like, like Jesse's saying, like, it's not on God, not on your time, it's on God's time. And He's seeing all these prayers and things that He put into me, that it's all just come full circle. And I'm I'm an introvert. Like, I would rather be alone. I don't want to, I kind of just.
Wow.
And now it's just, I feel like I have this calling to, I've been through this storm. I know how to kind of weather it. And now I need to help and engage others,
Might get you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, right. So I'm dipping my toes in that.
You don't seem much like an introvert. No. But, I mean, hey, I understand. We can have that effect on
We do this to people.
Amen.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
No, thank you guys.
God bless you.
Thanks a lot,
Yes.
Bless, guys.
You take. Alrighty, so I'm standing here with my good friend Richard.
Best friends.
Best friend Richard. Richard, why don't you tell us your God story? What are you doing here for starters?
I've been coming to Compass for it's about 8 or 9 years, somewhere around there. Just had to come back to Jesus. I was born and raised Christian. Grandma came and picked us up every Sunday.
Born and raised in Texas?
Over in Abilene, Texas, out in West Texas.
Out in West Texas.
Grandma came and got us, was always there. Never really, you hear the stories about, the giants and the miracles and the angels and Jesus and all that. And never got saved during that time, though. Never got baptized. Always tried doing good, tried doing right. So my story is, been in prison 3 times. Meth, aggravated assault. I love fighting. Back in the day, I don't fight no more, but
that's why I'm on your good side.
Right. Just addiction, man. You know, a lot of men go through it. A lot of women, everybody goes through it at one point or another. Somebody has some addiction, whether it be fighting, whether it be drugs, alcohol.
Work.
An enabler. You know, if you're an enabler, you never even did drugs, but you're enabling people. That's your addiction. Is you're an enabler. But
you're right about that.
Just coming back to Christ, man. That's why I'm here. I got to stay center focused. I got to be around men. What they talked about in there about, there's stuff I could talk to my wife about, who I love to death, but I can't fully open up to her the way I would with another man.
Sure.
And
that's what this event is really good for, is to kind of get yourself in touch with some people that are going through some of the similar things that you are going through, or just, you know.
Yeah. You can talk to men easier. It's more relatable. Yeah, It's more relatable to sit there and talk to somebody.
Right.
And then the guest speakers, the food, just the stuff that we have going on here that Rich has got going on. He's make fun of him all the time, but he's a really good guy. He's a really good guy, man. He's a part of my accountability group after this also, and he's been holding me accountable, which has been helping. There's just a really good group of guys here, man. I know probably half of them. The other half I really don't know. Would love to get to know them. But like dynamic marriage, all the classes we've been through, all that, the naked marriage class, him and Patty just doing side counseling for us. Just brought it back, man. So I got out of prison.
What was your God moment? Like, what was that moment? Kind of like what Jesse was speaking of, on his knees, 3 a.m, hands in the air. What do you have?
Mine was.
Can you remember that moment?
Oh yeah. Like I said, always been a Christian, believed, always never gave up. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Just like he said, I was in and I was doing
doing the hokey pokey, right? Yeah.
I was in, I was out, I was in, I was out.
Analogy.
Yeah. So. Probably the first time we did Rooted, we'd been in the church here at Compass for probably about 2 years, and Megan, my wife, was like, we're gonna do Rooted. And I was like, classes every day, once a week for like 2 months? Come on, man. I was like,
I know, right?
Taking away from my drinking time.
We both took the same class.
Yeah. And so the first one we went through, and it was eye-opener to sit there and spill your beans to people that strangers completely that you've never even met. You're like, man, these people aren't cool.
I'm supposed to talk about my weaknesses?
Yeah, I don't know any of these people.
What's your name again?
Yeah, y'all don't look like y'all are on my level.
Right.
You know what
exactly,
I mean? And then you all open up and you get to know each other, and you get to hear all the stories, man, and you're all the same. And even if it's not the same, then you hear their story, and you've kind of been there, but not really going what they're going through, but you understand what they're going through. All around the board. So we did that with our first group, and we had the celebration dinner, and it was during, we were at the end, and then they started having the worship music again, and me and my wife went and got baptized.
That night?
Oh,
wow. Okay.
So it was right
And
there.
that was the first time you'd been baptized?
Yep.
Yeah.
So even growing up with Mimi, taking me all the time, never got saved, never got baptized. I did get saved when I was in junior high, but never got baptized. So right here inside.
Was there a reason for that? You just never had the opportunity, or didn't want to?
I think
or
whenever
you feel it was like moving closer to something you were uncomfortable with, or something?
Yeah, the older I got, and Mimi wasn't able to physically go to church anymore. She started breaking down, health wise and everything. The whole family. She was the patriarch of the family, and she's the one that kept us going. Didn't care if mom was sick or anything. We're gonna come pick y'all up, and y'all are gonna go to church.
Right.
But once she started falling off of that, I think the whole family just kind of fell off.
Really?
My brother and sister don't go to church. My brother just died a month ago, and I don't know.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I know he was saved because he's got a little certificate that we found in his house, but I don't know if he was baptized or not. And I mean, that eats away at me a little bit, but 'cause me and him didn't exactly leave on the best terms. He was only 47. He wasn't supposed to go that quick, but man, I put all faith in God. I did my crying. I did all that. It's 1 month later. I'm good with it. I'm good. But yeah, that was my come to God moment, and it was so awesome because it was with my wife. We both were in the tank and got baptized together.
That's awesome.
So have I backslid since then? Yep, everybody does. That was
perfect, right?
Yeah, that was
head to the door if you are.
Yep, head to the door. But yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind, man. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I haven't fallen back into old patterns or old routines, and but it's been pretty much God-centered. Yeah. So I do dynamic marriage about once every other year. We've done Rooted 3 times. I gotta stay focused, and I gotta stay in with the church. When they say you got to go to church and all that, you do. If you slide off, then you're going to slide all the way off if you don't stay with these people right here. And it just helps me out, man. It helps me and my wife out. We can see it whenever it's not happening.
Yeah.
Whenever we're not around that group or we're not in that class.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You really can.
You can feel it in the house. No, you're good. It's just, yeah, you can feel it in the house. You can feel the tension. The arguing builds up. The not talking. Sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've all experienced that.
Yeah. Stuff like that, man. And whenever you get back to it and the forgiveness is there and you know that God is working his way back into your life again, because it doesn't matter. 99, 1,000 times, we all know he's going to come back.
Yeah.
We always know he's going to be there for us. We always know he's going to turn your life
He's
around.
essentially always there. He's just waiting for us to acknowledge him.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And that's the key, really.
Yeah, so I'm on my second marriage with her. And one of the things that I wanted to do, whenever I first got out of prison, I met her like a month later. And I told her, I was like, I'm not going back to that old stuff or that old routine. I said, we're going to go find a church. Okay. Whenever we first started dating, she was like, all right, cool. She's like, because I was going to ask you the same thing. And of course, we said, we're both not going to get married, but yeah.
Right,
we wound up getting married.
That's what me and Kat said. And then, yeah.
Yeah, but it happened. If God wills it, if God wants it, it's already his plan. It's going to happen. So,
exactly.
Happily married. Love coming to these men's events. Love doing stuff at the church, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
I'm in the pool business, and I do Pastor Rob's pool. I do Drew's pool. I do all the pastor pool. I'm the pool pastor boy.
Do you ever like mess around with him and like throw like a baby Ruth in the pool when you're done?
That's a good one. I should probably do that.
Oh, that's Caddyshack right there.
Yeah, be like,
gotta try that.
Yeah, Drew will call me up and be like, Richard, we got some problems.
If you have to confess, tell me the other Drew told you to do it.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, you go back and watch this podcast. He told me to.
Well, Richard, man, I appreciate your time with us. You're a
bro.
blessed human being, man.
Love you too, man.
You take care of yourself. Love you, man.